Hello, welcome to Context. I'm Anastasia Lavrina. On April 3rd, President Donald Trump announced sweeping new tariffs in what he called Liberation Day for the American economy. The policy imposes a blanket 10% tariff on nearly all imports, with steeper rates targeting specific countries: 34% on goods from China, 46% from Vietnam, and up to 24% on imports from the EU, Japan, and Israel. And just yesterday, the move marks a dramatic escalation of Trump's trade-first agenda aimed at reviving U.S. manufacturing and correcting trade imbalances. Global reaction has been swift, markets dipped, allies voiced concern, and trade partners are awaiting retaliation. While Trump supporters view the tariffs as a bold stand against unfair competition, critics warn of rising costs for American consumers and a potential global trade backlash. With economic nationalism once again center stage, Trump's latest move has sparked intense debate over the future of international trade and America's role within it. So more on this issue right now. Joining me to discuss this further from Manchester is political analyst Hamid Khan Al-Mashriqi, and from Taipei, political analyst Rose Feingold. First, let's cross to Mr. Al-Mashriqi. My first question to you: how has the UK media portrayed the US tariffs, and so your expectations and your opinion on that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, it is not a happy moment in terms of US-UK relations, that it will affect the local public as well. And the main thing is that the UK has the highest, one of the highest exporters of the cars, over $9 billion a year to Americans. And then the second, highest thing which they export to US is their pharmacy-related items and pharmaceutical-related items, which may be exempted from tariffs. But the concerns are that it will definitely increase the inflation, it will affect the business ties between the both countries, it will affect the jobs in the UK as well, who are the companies who are working basically or depending on exporting to United States. And obviously it will bring some kind of instability in the stock markets as well. So, I mean, as far as rest of the world concerned, you have seen the reaction from China. They have, imposed taxes as well. Then we have seen the, reaction from other countries as well. They are doing the tariffs on American products as well. So I think as United Kingdom is going to do the same. But to be honest, it will take some time to know the real effects of this entire tariffs across UK. But as even American public and American, Democrats are raising so many questions on these tariffs. They believe this is, unrealistic steps taken by the President Trump, and it is going to affect directly to the consumers of United States, because the tariffs or taxes eventually or directly or indirectly affects on the end user, and end user is American public, whether it is cars, whether it is food, whether it is pharmacies, whether it is anything. I mean, all the things which are coming under the tariffs are directly end user for the Americans. So Trump is doing what he was supposed to do, what he promised to do, but we will see the reaction of these things. We will see the consequences coming months. There will be, I don't think so it will be very much easy for even United States to come out of it. These are very harsh, drastic steps, and UK is ready to counter it as well, and the public and the companies are making their strategy how to counter these tariffs.
That's indeed very interesting to know more about how this policy will affect the American citizens itself. But before that, I would like to address my next question to you, Mr. Feingold. How are countries like China, Vietnam, and Thailand, let's say, interpreting the steep new US import tariffs?
Different countries in the Asia-Pacific region have different approaches to responding. Some of them are going to raise tariffs. We saw that with China on Friday, Asia time, that they announced higher tariffs on U.S. products being imported into China. Other countries are looking at things such as how to support their domestic industries, possibly with subsidies or tax breaks. The government here in Taiwan, for example, has already announced that that's the direction that they're going to go. They're going to look to provide subsidies or other kinds of financial aid to companies that export to the United States. So the response from governments here in the Asia-Pacific region is still very much a work in progress, but generally it's going to be a combination of higher tariffs on U.S. goods as well as some financial aid to their local companies.
Well, Mr. Al-Mashriqi, what concerns are prevalent among the UK public and business community, if it's more in details?
Yes, definitely. There are very much concerns in the UK public, and especially the business community, especially those companies who are directly dealing businesses with the United States. And as I said, that I mean, there are a lot of major industries who are directly dealing with the United Kingdom, and they are concerned with these, I would say the tariff shocks. And these shocks are going to cost and going to have those companies redesign their strategy, how to tackle these prices and how to meet the requirements of the customers. Because I'm again saying that eventually it is going to be burden on the end user, and if the end user is American, then it is going to affecting on them. And what Trump is saying that he will be able to have America self-sufficient, that the things will start producing everything within America. It's not that easy. It's not that simple, and it can't be that quick. So there is a lot of time required to do or be self-sufficient for any country, and there is no country, whether America or any country, that could be 100% self-sufficient in everything. So that is the thing which American president has to consider. There are few things, or there are a lot of things which America has to be depending on other nations such as China, Vietnam, Pakistan, India, and then the United Kingdom, and then so many other countries. So, I mean, instead of bringing a balanced trade approach, it is a very harsh approach, and the British companies are very much ready to tackle the situation. And obviously, they will find other markets as well. The companies who are depending only on business with Americans, they will look for other markets as well. They will look for other countries for their potential customers. That is the way they are moving forward.
So it's a new opportunities to find new partners and building new connections. Therefore,
Exactly.
Mr. Feingold,
Definitely.
are Southeast Asian nations viewing this as a threat to globalization or a chance to recalibrate ties with the West?
I think Southeast Asian nations are generally unhappy about the higher tariffs. The United States is an important export destination for Southeast Asian countries, especially with the decoupling from China that we've seen over the past 5-6 years. Companies have moved manufacturing out of China to places like Vietnam and Malaysia and Indonesia and Southeast Asia. So Southeast Asian countries certainly have a lot to lose if there's going to be a global trade war. In fact, Southeast Asian countries would prefer that the global trading regime became more and more open, more and more free. But that's not going to be the reality when it comes to the United States, given the new tariffs announced by President Trump. But I think the outlook is still generally positive for countries in Southeast Asia. They have a lot of competitive advantages, such as lower cost of labor. Some countries in Southeast Asia, like Malaysia, have a lot of experience with doing electronic manufacturing. Thailand has a lot of experience with doing auto manufacturing. So if they have to look for new markets in Europe, I think countries in Southeast Asia are well placed to do that. But of course, they would prefer that the United States could still remain a market that they can access with lower tariffs. But President Trump has made it clear that that's not going to be the case anymore. He's going to impose higher tariffs throughout the world, including on exporters from Southeast Asia.
Mr. Al-Mashriqi, how has Prime Minister Keir Starmer responded to the tariffs?
A response from Keir Starmer is very calculated, and Prime Minister is saying that we will wait and watch and we will have to see, because at the moment there are very highest level negotiations also going on between US and UK to reconsider the proposed tariffs by United States, and there may be some kind of relaxation or special treatment with UK in terms of tariffs. And that is what Prime Minister Keir Starmer was hoping for, that he may be able to break some deal where he will be able to get some extraordinary relaxation in terms of tariffs. And that would be a very big success for UK as well. But at the same time, that US is looking for something give and take. So we have to see what UK can put it on the offer on the table as compared with the United States threat of the tariffs. It has to be mutually benefit if they want to continue and they want to come up some solution where there will be some kind of, I would say, relaxation or concession for the United Kingdom in terms of tariffs.
Yes, indeed. So, Mr. Feingold, what ripple effects might this have on the trade strategy of Association of Southeast Asian Nations, if we speak from the international perspective on that?
Yeah, they're going to have to look for new trading partners. Most likely that will be in Europe, and other parts of the world that have potential are Africa and the Middle East, and to a lesser extent, South America. The advantage that some of the ASEAN countries have is that they're a member of regional trade agreements. There's one called the RCEP, which is the 10 ASEAN members plus countries in Northeast Asia like China, Japan, and South Korea. Then there's also the CPTPP, which is the successor to the TPP that President Trump left when he took office in 2017. And many of the Southeast Asian countries are members of the CPTPP, along with the United Kingdom as a recent joiner to the CPTPP. So it's clear that Southeast Asian countries definitely have a preference for multilateral free trade agreements, and they could probably benefit from those agreements as well going forward as a replacement for the United States.
Mr. Al-Nashriki, could these new tariffs be seen as part of a broader trend of economic nationalism worldwide?
Yes, definitely. I mean, it is actually, I would say, it would be a threat to the globalization. At the same time, it is a message for the so many countries that to be self-reliant and independent in terms of economical, growth, in terms of economical dependency. And I mean, again, the countries who are more established, they will find the way out to come out of these things, and they will gain more independent economic, revival. And it will be very interesting to see in coming months that how this trade war may involve other countries as well, because it could be in future, if Trump's this model is successful, maybe other countries may also like to adopt it between other countries as well, not only with the United States. But at the moment, it is very challenging, and as far as UK is concerned, the policymakers are doing their work to how to counter it and how to achieve internally economical independence.
That's indeed very interesting. So more in details, Mr. Feingold, do you think that it's more important for the countries now to have more self-reliant economy, independent, or it's time for the formation of new economic alliances?
Certainly in this part of the world, Asia-Pacific region, economic alliances are very important. That's why many of the countries are participants in multilateral free trade agreements like the RCEP or the CPTPP. However, at the same time, I do think a lot of the countries in this part of the world, they're going to seek to negotiate with the American government, with President Trump, and to see what kind of deal they can make. The United States is still an important export destination for many of the countries in this region. That's been the case for a long time for countries like Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. And then there's other countries, as I mentioned, that have benefited as manufacturing left China and sought alternatives in Southeast Asia or in South Asia. So there are countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, Bangladesh, which have benefited from an outflow of manufacturing from China. But part of the value proposition was that manufacturing was going to move from China to these other countries for purposes of exporting to the United States. So I think countries in this part of the world are highly incentivized to negotiate with the United States, but the United States government, being realistic, there's a limit to how many countries they can negotiate at any given time. And some countries will be a priority, and other countries will not be a priority, and they might be at the back of the line to engage in bilateral negotiations with the United States.
Mr. Anastasia, so does it mean that the organizations like the World Trade Organization, for example, also have to consider some specific reforms to adapt to this new reality?
Certainly, I mean, World Trade Organization has to draw a new, I would say, framework for the rest of the world as well, because it is bringing a very dangerous economical imbalance for the rest of the global countries as well. And because the businesses or whosoever will start making money under these tariffs with the United States, then those countries or those businessmen or the companies will have a different model of working or different pattern of working. And obviously, World Trade Organization, WTO, has to come up with some new, I would say, policies, new strategies. And on top of it, they might have to introduce some kind of global laws as well, because I believe that it is a time for some kind of international court of economical activities should be formed or something like that, where there should be some kind of principles for exports between the countries. And we will have to see what kind of role WTO play within this framework. Yes, it is going to be very challenging for World Trade Organization in coming years and months, and there will be a lot of changes in global trade models, definitely.
Mr. Feingold, what's interesting these days, we also observed some specific achievements on the summit, the first ever in history summit between the European Union and Central Asian states. Apart from some specific issues, the transport links and economic cooperation are among the top priorities which is being discussed by the parties. Therefore, do you believe that it's also a part of a new economic strategy which is being developed and promoted by the countries in the European Union?
If they want to pursue economic agreements with other parts of the world, then good for them. That's up to the European Union. The Trump administration is going to be very skeptical of multilateral agreements and multilateral organizations such as the World Trade Organization. So I'd be very skeptical that the WTO could play any role that would reduce the U.S. Trade barriers recently announced by President Trump. If countries want to reduce those barriers, they're going to have to negotiate on a bilateral basis with the United States. But if other trading blocs or other countries want to pursue multilateral or bilateral agreements, that's up to them. And in some cases, they might succeed in reaching those agreements. In other cases, they won't be able to reach agreements.
And one more question to both of you. Do you believe this move will strengthen Trump's position ahead of the elections, or could it backfire and undermine his economic agenda? Because just recently he didn't deny the possibility for him to participate in the elections next time. Therefore, how it will affect his own position within the country?
I think because he has this last term, so he will have nothing much to lose in terms of his political future or career. But at the other hand, Republicans have many reservations on his policies, and they might, in the coming elections or next election, they might have to pay the price as a Republican, as a whole, party, as compared to Democrats, because Democrats are clearly opposing all these steps taken by President Trump. But at the same time, President Trump believes that he has 4 years enough time to prove that his actions and his decisions are for the betterment of Americans, and he will be able to pursue with that slogan which he calls "Make America Great Again." So let's see if he will be able to prove it that his steps are eventually going to benefit the American public. Otherwise, as I said, that in coming 3 to 6 months, we will see all the effects of these tariffs. And if these effects are adverse effects, then obviously not only it would be bad for Trump's political future, it will also have very adverse effect on Republicans' future politics.
So, Mr. Feingold, long-term effect of these tariffs to U.S. economies and, I would say, political stability.
The next big election in the United States is the November 2026 midterm election. In the Senate, the map is very favorable to Republicans, so they'll be able to keep control of the Senate. In the House, who knows? The Democrats could take it over. It's very possible. And that's why Trump and the Republicans are trying to get as much done in the next year and a half before those elections occur. As of now, it's unconstitutional for President Trump to run for a third term for the presidency in 2028, although he jokes about seeking a third term, but it is unconstitutional. So if that's true, then he doesn't have the pressure of running again for the presidency, and he can pretty much do what he wants without worrying about losing a presidential election.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining our discussion today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trump's April 3rd tariffs have shaken global trade, slapping steep import duties on allies and rivals alike. The UK warns of economic fallout, with Starmer urging calm. Southeast Asia, especially Vietnam, braces for impact as the region waits unity or solo strategies in response. We'll definitely continue to follow these developments, but for now, dear viewers, thank you for watching AnewZ. Do stay with us and see you soon.